Honorable Senators, kindly be upstanding. Order. Order. Order, Honorable Senators. Order. Honorable Senators, before...
And that was the verdict yesterday night, of course, the Senate Speaker delivering it after senators decided to uphold the Meru County Assembly impeachment motion that was brought before the House for a third time, despite the 5 attempts that have been made against now the ousted Meru governor, that is Kawira Mwangaza. And now we are about to look at the impact, or the aftermath following the impeachment of the first female governor from office. You do remember there were 7 governors in office. Right now there are only 6 remaining, but what recourse can she take after the Senate decided to impeach her? Now the votes that tallied that in the first charge, some of 26 senators voted to uphold the first charge of a gross violation. Some 14 senators abstained, while 4 voted in her favor. On the second charge, on gross misconduct, 26 senators voted in favor of her impeachment, while 14 others abstained. In the third charge, 27 senators upheld the charge of abuse of office. 1 voted against it and 14 abstained. Now, some of the abstained votes came from the opposition party, which includes the ODM party, Wiper, and the various other parties within the Azimio coalition who currently have a representation within the Senate. That was the fate of Kawira Mwangaza. Of course, we're keeping an eye on what is happening in Meru County and how the news is reverberating across the country as well. Welcome to News Check. My name is Abdiaziz Hashim. The sign language interpreter at the bottom end of the screen is Susan Thuku. So let's get down to the conversation. What next for Kawira Mwangaza following the impeachment? And joining us to make sense of what even happened yesterday night, given that we woke up to this particular news, is none other than Naftali Nyamogo, a certified professional mediator. Thank you for joining us, Naftali.
Thank you very much.
Let's start on that notion. What did you make of the proceedings when you heard the Senate Speaker delivering the judgment?
Okay, number one, it is capable of being treated as fact that Kawira Mwangaza now has lost her seat as the governor of Meru. Meru is county 12, according to the first schedule, which divides the territory of Kenya into the counties. Now, when you look at the Speaker giving that verdict, the Speaker of the Senate, then what comes into your mind is that the Senate of the Republic of Kenya has that power or right to interpret and apply the law as far as counties are concerned. And in this regard now, to the removal of the governor from office, it is only the Senate which has that apex authority to make that verdict. From the 3 counts, gross violation of the Constitution and the law, then gross misconduct, and then abuse of office. The reason why the framers of the Constitution envisaged the word gross. Gross means, according to the Oxford Dictionary, visible to the naked eyes. Those violations which were visible to the naked eyes. Then conspicuously or outrageously bad or reprehensible. That can be seen from the governor for this period of time. Bearing in mind that this is the first impeachment of a governor since the 9th August 2022 general elections.
Yes.
Now, the people of Meru County, I'm appealing. I'm calling upon the people of Meru County in this application not to be agitated.
Yes.
Not to lose their self-possession. Just to remain calm, to have that steadiness of mind under stress. Because this is what the law says, that if there is an abuse of office from a state officer, if there is a gross violation from a state officer, then the county assembly has that prerogative to impeach the governor, and then the process will take its course the way now Kawira Mwangaza has been taken through. When you look at Article 23 of the Constitution,
yes,
the authority of the courts to uphold or enforce the Bill of Rights is that now Kawira also has that chance or opportunity
yes,
to appeal to the judiciary in order to be heard, because the High Court has jurisdiction in accordance with Article 165 to hear and determine application of redress of any denial, violation, or infringement of or threat to a right or a fundamental freedom in the Bill of Rights. So these are rights and fundamental freedoms that the people of Kenya have been given, both the public officers and also the common mwananchi. So Kawira from here will move to court, and then the court will give also what? Its determination. It's about a fair hearing. Yeah. So the MCS have done their part. The prosecution side and the defense side have done their part. What we are looking for is that from the layman perspective, what is the Meru guys speaking about? Was this legit? Was it legal? Was it unfounded? Was it called for? Is it right for their governor to be impeached? When you look at the submissions yesterday, both from the MCS and the prosecution side, and also from the people from the ground, one major issue that was raised was that the killing of the sniper.
yes,
And the office of the governor was heavily linked. When you look at responsibilities of leadership, it was morally bad in principle or in practice that the office of the governor was involved in the killing of sniper. And you know, the death about sniper in Meru was met by strong resentment and cynicism. People were, it was difficult for the people to bear that young man went through what he went through. And this was the reason why the people saw that the county assembly ought to impeach the governor because of depriving the right to a life of a Kenyan who was doing their work to earn a living. So when you look at these three counts, from where I sit, the defense side tried to counter the prosecution, but they were defeated. And this is the third time that the governor is presented
before the Senate.
Before the Senate.
Yes, and Naftali, given that you have brought up the demise of Sniper himself, even the senator, that is Moses Kajang, was saying that both the county executive and the county assembly did something wrong because they were dancing on the grave of a sniper just to make a case before the Senate. So was it even wise on part of the county assembly and the county executive to base their case off somebody who has already died?
Yeah. Do you know why? We have the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights is like the heart of the Constitution. Right to life. When an individual dies arbitrarily without a just cause, you cannot say that people are making a joke out of the grave, because that right was denied. And it is inalienable. According to the framers of the Constitution, the right to life of Abdi or Naftali is inalienable. It means it is incapable of being repudiated or transferred to another. It is not subject to forfeiture. So if a person dies, people must question, how did they die? Because a person shall not be deprived of life intentionally, except to the extent authorized by this Constitution or another law. There are places where the Constitution has offered limitations of rights to life. But now in the case of Sniper, the MCAs and the people there wanted to speak heavily, to communicate a message that this death was not normal. Yeah, this death was not usual. We wanted to know what happened. And you saw the submissions. People were crying. And they knew, you know, the difference between the ordinary mwananchi and the state organs like now the DCI is that the ordinary mwananchi can know the truth. Yes. Barely. It is visible. It is clearly to the minds of many people that this death followed this course. But now the DCIO and other organs may try to hide some information. So because of the sovereignty of the people, you know, the counties came because of that aspect of self-determination. That the people of Meru County have sovereignty. Yes. That they cannot be controlled by outside forces. So they were affirming that we know how Sniper was killed. So tell us the truth as state organs. Yeah.
Naftali, we have not been here for the first time. We have seen the former Embu governor, that is Martin Wambora, who went to the Supreme Court. The then Chief Justice David Maraga reinstated him as the governor. So what scenarios are we likely to see to play out in the corridors of justice if and when the impeached governor, that is Kawira Mwangaza, goes to the court?
Right. Now, the highest court is the Supreme Court in Kenya. So if Kawira Mwangaza finds herself in the Supreme Court, then there are two options. The Supreme Court may uphold the impeachment or refute the impeachment. So they may declare her the governor or uphold her impeachment. And that is what we call independence of the judiciary. They have that jurisdiction. The judiciary, through now the Supreme Court, the judges have that jurisdiction, the right and the power to interpret and apply the law. So let us wait and see what will happen in the Supreme Court.
Indeed, it is a matter of wait and see. But going back to the conversation, Naftali, we are talking about a governor who was independent at first before joining the ruling coalition. What message does it send to some of the independent candidates who are even seeking to be governors in the devolved units?
You know, the Constitution is very explicit on independent candidates. And the reason why independent candidates came into being was that the citizens could feel infringed by some of our political parties. So in one way or the other, because of that right to political rights or freedom to vote and vie, they introduced that clause for independent candidates. But it is high time that the people of Kenya sit down and discuss to look into on the aspect of independent candidates. Because from where I sit, we should not be having independent candidates on presidential and the gubernatorial posts. Because imagine today, Abdi, a president has won on an independent candidate without members from a political party. How can they govern the country? That is what now we have seen.
Back in the day, Kebati had only a few legislators representing him in the corridors of justice.
But Kebati was never an independent candidate.
Yes.
Yeah. We are speaking about independent candidates. Because when you are elected as an independent candidate, then you win as an independent what? Officer. Now, you are at the mercy to seek sympathy from other political parties to back your government. So from where I sit, because we have two levels of government, it is my opinion. The law says that we have independent candidates in presidential and the gubernatorial. But since these are governments which are distinct and interdependent, that need that gusto or zest to govern, a candidate should not be elected as an independent in the gubernatorial and presidential, because they will have hard time. You need political parties, because the Republic of Kenya under Article 4 the Republic of Kenya shall be founded on a multi-party democratic state, founded on the national values and the principles of governance referred to in Article 10. So when you elect a leader as an independent party, then you jeopardize them through their good governance. They cannot govern because the counter assemblies may belong to other parties, and you are independent. This is what has happened now in Meru. That is why we have had 3 impeachments.
Yes, because when the governor was defending herself, she was saying that in the first impeachment, she had only the support of 1 MCA. In the second impeachment, she had at least 9. And in this third, the latest one that she has been impeached now fully, she had at least the support of over 20 MCAs. And she even opined if she would not have been impeached, next time an impeachment motion was brought back to the Senate, she would at least had over 40 support of MCAs. But that is another matter. Now, to the Kenyans who are watching us right now, Naftali, if somebody is impeached, what does that mean for their political career and as a person, professionally?
Now, impeachment was put or provided for in the Constitution as a political process. It's purely a political process. It is one way to remove a public officer or a state officer. It is what the people of Kenya decided. It is we who decided to have that process of impeachment. So if someone has been impeached and then they don't go to court to either defend these allegations, then it means from that, because one of the organs of the government is the legislature. Legislature, it means that the legislative authority of the republic is derived from the people, and at the national level is vested in and exercised by parliament. So if parliament then determines that a public officer or a state officer has been impeached on the grounds of gross violation of the constitution or another law, abuse of office or gross misconduct, then it means these public officers lacked what? Integrity. They didn't have that unbroken or undivided completeness. We want moral admirableness in our state offices, and we have put institutions there to oversight these state officers. So one of the institutions is parliament. Now the Senate. If the Senate determines that Kawira Mwangaza was unfit to hold office, then it remains like that.
So it's an indictment. You cannot hold any other position.
You can't hold any
Indeed. Naftali, you've even heard some of the conversations that has been rife within the Meru County Assembly as well as in the country in terms of dissolving the County Assembly of Meru County. So what do you make of the conversation first, and what are the legal procedures required to dissolve a county assembly?
Now, the Constitution also provides for dissolution of what? A county unit. The members of, once if a county assembly is dissolved, then the president puts in place a caretaker unit to govern that. So it means then, for that period of time, the people will be contemplating to go back to elect a new leadership from the governor to the MCS. What has happened now cannot be said to provoke what? Dissolution of the county. What has happened now, if the governor is impeached and then the apex court now, which is the Supreme Court, upholds this impeachment, it means then the deputy governor, according to the procedures, procedurally, the deputy governor now assumes office as governor, not dissolution. Dissolution is another process. The process which now we see, we are seeing now the deputy governor coming in as governor of the county government of Meru. Yeah.
And indeed, given that those conversations have been rife within the county, back in the day, we even saw the former Makueni governor, that is Kivutha Kibwana, attempting to dissolve the county assembly of Makueni back then. And of course, we want to engage with our very own Gibson Gisore, who's just joining us, a constitutional lawyer. As we set you up, Gisore, let me go back to Naftali. Naftali, we're talking about the lessons now that can be drawn from this impeachment motion, especially for first-term governors who have been in office. What lessons can these governors especially draw from the impeachment?
Number one lesson is that we have responsibility of leadership. If you have been elected as governor or another leader, there is that social force that binds a state officer or a public officer for the causes demanded by that force. And this has been given by the people of Kenya, that responsibility. You have to account, you have to be liable for your actions. And I have mentioned here that one of the actions which made the county assembly to impeach the governor, it is because of that public outcry of the death of Sniper. And I have told you how the right to life is very fundamental, it's very basic as a Bill of Rights. There is no way a Kenyan can disappear. And then the office of the governor is linked. Let me give you an example. Last week, we are in our social WhatsApp platforms. And our area MP, Jafet Mokaya, in Nyakundi, because my brother Otachi has just differed in opinion in that WhatsApp group, he goes ahead to issue threats to him. It is very unfounded for any public officer, especially these state officers who have been elected, to see this office as a platform to rule the people. They are there to serve the people.
Okay. Okay, we cannot confirm that because it's your own WhatsApp.
I'm giving it as a personal perspective.
Okay.
Because I will stand to defend what I'm saying. It is capable of being treated as fact that our elected leaders, once they assume office, they think that now that office is theirs. This is a public office. It is that public trust. Authority assigned it to a state officer or a public officer.
Okay. Well, the governor yesterday, before she was impeached, she defended herself. She said the investigations that are ongoing with the DCI has not linked her or her office to the death of Sniper. Let's leave it at that. Let me get to introduce Gibson Gisore here, constitutional lawyer. Gisore, we started off with Naftali with the show. We were talking about some of the reactions following the announcement by the Senate or the decision to uphold the impeachment of Kawira Mwangaza. So what did you make of the proceedings and what is likely to lie ahead for the impeached governor now?
I think the victory, thank you, Abdi, first. I'm sorry I'm late because of other commitments. Yes, this really is a lesson to other governors. And first, I want to congratulate the people of Meru County that they have made a point that you cannot rule them in a manner which they do not want. You cannot rule them like they are sheep which are herded in the wrong direction and they believe that you're not taking them in the right direction. So given the persistency of the county assembly in terms of pointing out the governance misdeeds of the governor, it was incumbent upon the Senate to actually be able to find that indeed there is a problem, because if somebody keeps crying every other time and you keep saying that you're making jokes, then at the end of the day you will find that this person is maybe dead at some point and then you cannot be able to help them. So it's I think it's victory for the people of Meru for starters, and it sends a signal to all the governors that you cannot be a power unto yourselves. Power should not be able to get into their head and then they be able to rule without the people, because that is what is called lording over the people. When you want to lord over the people, you better be able to lord over them with their consent. But the people of Meru feel that they need to withdraw their consent of Kawira Mwangaza being their governor, and they have acted and they have really pushed the agenda that she's not fit to be their leader. And that's what was demonstrated, I believe, in the Senate, by the Senate confirming the same, that indeed she has gone over and above what she's supposed to do as a constitutional office holder.
So as a constitutional lawyer, what are likely chances if she goes to the courts?
She's still, it's still not done. It's still not done that she's really out, because it depends also on what the court will find, because the Senate was sitting as a quasi-judicial body to determine. So it was, of course, trying to, in a preliminary way, it was trying to look at the evidence which was produced. And according to them, they felt that it amounted to gross misconduct of the Constitution. So it upon court to also take its own evidence and be able to listen to our case properly. Our evidence to be adduced from point A to point Z. And then once the court pronounces itself, then she still has a chance to, of course, go to the to proceed till her appeal is done. And that is when now we can say that she's really done. But for now, it's a first win for the people of Meru County, but there's still another fight to be fought in the courts.
But you have seen the conversations we were having, Naftali, as you were walking in. We were talking about the dissolution of a county assembly. The conversation has been rife, not just in Meru County, but the country at large. So your reaction to that, and tell us some of the procedures that the county needs to follow so as to ensure, if they have decided that the county assembly of Meru needs to be dissolved, what are these legal procedures they must adhere to?
The dissolution, the process of dissolution of, I'm not sure of the county assembly, but of the county, because the constitution talks about the county,
yes,
not the county assembly. Because if you dissolve the county assembly, then what then? The governor just starts to rule by him or herself. So the whole issue is dissolution. Our constitution has a provision for dissolution of our county, so that the president now takes over. So all structures of the county leadership should be scrapped, so that the president takes over and appoints a caretaker committee, which should be able to run the processes till the end of the term. But in this case, I don't think we're in that context. This is purely a procedural process, which is still anchored in the constitution, that it's the governor who is the problem with the county assembly. The county assembly is merely checking the governor's governance procedures according to the constitution, and that's why they presented their case to the Senate, and the Senate indeed found in favor of the allegations which were brought forth. So at this point, we cannot be able to argue in the case of dissolution of anything. What we can only be argue is Kawira Mwangaza needs to fight for her seat, because her seat is now in jeopardy. So she has another lifeline with the court, which she needs to prove before the court that indeed whatever was alleged before the Senate, and which the Senate found in its wisdom that she had really gone overboard and gone beyond the constitution, is not what it is. That is her case now to prove. She needs to move to court and be able to appeal the decision of the Senate. And it's not the first time we are seeing this. We have seen the neighboring county of Embu during the first term suffered several impeachment motions, which were brought, of course, to the Senate, and Wambora was able to defend them in the first term. And people say it's the governor who has 9 lives of a cat. And she still went ahead and served this full term. So some of these things are maybe teething issues, which maybe the governor needs to be able to understand the people where they're coming from, and then have a sit down with the people and be able to decide the way forward. Because really, leadership is inclusive. Leadership is something which you have to work with the people. It's not something which you decide to move whichever direction you want to move, and you want the people to follow you. And there seems to be a problem. One thing I think we need to also note, Abdi, is that the County Assembly of Meru is one county assembly which has one of the most learned MCAs. So I think there's a variance. There's a variance between the exposure, the exposure of the county assembly vis-a-vis the governor. I think there should be a problem there. There should be a problem where they are not able to meet terms of intellectual capacity at some point. And that is what is leading to what the challenges we are facing right now, in my own perspective. But I could be wrong. I don't come from Meru. But that is something which needs to be looked at, so that at the end of the day, we get to find where a solution has got to be found with the people of Meru, and it's only the people of Meru can solve this challenge.
The other question that Meru residents want to know now, will there be a vacuum after the impeachment?
There's no provision for a vacuum in the county leadership. If she's successfully impeached, for the rest of the term will be carried over by the deputy governor, who is in place. We have seen this happen with Nairobi, and of course the lady who was there proceeded to finish the term of Songo. Albeit the other provision where they brought in the Nairobi Metropolitan to take over and run the county. But she was still serving as governor. Yes. And
Naftali, coming back to you, this is the third time she's coming before the Senate. What do you think was the defining moment that the senators decided, oh, this third time, now she has to go, as opposed to the two instances that she was before the senators?
Yeah, in fact, now, before that, for this interview to show lack of favorism, or for us to have to be free from undue bias or preconceived opinions, it is highly recommended that we discuss also other avenues. Was the counter simply also having some mayhem in this impeachment issue? Because most Kenyans view Kawira Mwangaza as the main problem in this impeachment. But some, it is true that some think that the counter simply has a problem. And if indeed the counter simply has a misconduct, the MCAs, then let us imagine where the situation we can suspend this counter simply. And relook at now Article 192 of the Constitution, which contemplates suspension of a county government. In fact, it's not the dissolution. When you dissolve, it's like you terminate it. The Constitution has not provided for dissolution. It has provided for suspension. It means that this county unit cannot be terminated completely. It is just a suspension for a period of time.
Okay, just a minute. We'll continue with the conversation. If you want to join in the conversation, talk to us on our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1 and at Abdiaziz Hashim 1. Quickly, I want to take you to a third Nairobi caucus on the countering of the financing of terrorism, a conference that is currently happening. Let's listen into what is happening to that particular event that has brought together participants and key policy stakeholders. You can see on your screen that is the President's advisor on matters of security, Ambassador Monica Juma. Let's listen in.
Work is really to monitor and to enhance those collaborations, and I'm sure they can speak to the detail of that.
Thank you, Waziri.
Can help you to
proceed. I think we have moved from the challenges that particularly in the last decade, Kenyans would report attacks, and the many attacks that we had targeting our public space, and a lot of and challenges. We have not had any major incidents for a while, and it is to a great part agency, and the partnerships that we are having with the public, the Kenyan public is increasingly more aware of this threat and how it is, and that has significantly contributed.
We apologize for that technical hiccup. It is a conference that is currently happening. That is the Nairobi caucus on countering the financing of terrorism in the country. Key stakeholders, especially in the security sector, are there. And you've just seen the President's National Security Advisor, that is Monica Juma, addressing members of the Fourth Estate. Now, as we enter the final leg of our conversation, we were talking about Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza's fate. Now, given that she has lost her seat, we're talking to Naftali once more. Nyamogo, a certified professional mediator, if you're just joining us. And we also have Gibson Gisore, a constitutional lawyer. Gentlemen, let's enter the final, the conversation that we're in right now. Naftali, you were making a point in terms of why the third time for the county assembly was a charm.
Yeah, no, and I was thinking that we also look at the aspect of the county assembly, the MCS, because some Kenyans are arguing that these MCS are behaving like minors. Because if you look at the allegations from the MCS, people, some other Kenyans, and we needed to give them what? Airtime. In their thinking, they are not convinced that the MCS are fit. So, if this is the case, then what does the Constitution envisage on suspension? Because if a county assembly is suspended, then this MCS will be suspended. So, a county government cannot be suspended under Article 192, except there is an emergency arising out from an internal conflict or war. We don't see any war in Meru. If there were a war, then the county government could be suspended, or exceptional circumstances. So I may think that these unruly or unprecedented, lack of competence from the MCS may, in my own opinion, be regarded as exceptional circumstances. So the president then should form a commission of inquiry. Then once that commission of inquiry has come up with their investigations, if the president is convinced, then these investigations will be subjected again to the Senate. Then the Speaker of the Senate, after that process, now will declare the county government suspended. But it will be suspended for a period of 30, for a period of 90 days. Then after which, an election now should be carried out in the Meru County.
Gisore, in your final comment, especially on why this third time was a charm for the county assembly.
I think really the spanner was thrown into the works when the whole event came back to the Senate. You know, she was lucky twice. You can never be lucky so many times, especially when you are dealing with the public. Then I guess the allegations, you look at the allegations, they were, you know, even the county assembly has also become wiser in terms of crafting, because I watched the previous one, and I think there were seven allegations. All of them were thrown away for lack of clear evidence. And I think this time they really crafted the evidence well. They really made their motions and the people who are to be their witnesses to be people who understand what they were doing. So when that is presented before the Senate, then the Senate does not have an option of also again going ahead and saying that, you know, there is nothing here. So I really think that there is an underlying problem in Meru, and the underlying problem is that the governor cannot be able to listen to the people, cannot be able to go with the people. And when you realize that, it's very difficult for you to actually send back the same governor to the same people who have claimed that this person is unfit to serve us.
Okay, thank you so much. That is Gibson Gisore, constitutional lawyer, Naftali Nyamogo, a certified professional mediator. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. I know it was brief. This is a conversation that will continue in the coming days, and we are waiting to see what will happen if the governor decides to appeal this particular decision at the corridors of justice. Once she does, of course, we'll brief you in our subsequent bulletins. And now, before I take this short commercial break, in the second hour, we'll be discussing the possible returns of 49 provisions within the withdrawal of the Finance Bill of 2024, and among them is the contentious eco-levy, and we'll be discussing this conversation with none other than Dennis Wakaba, a Secretary of Electric Mobility Association of Kenya, who will be joining us after this short commercial break. Don't go too far.
Alikuwa amechukua steering wheel na kiti ya mbele, yani kiti ya driver.
Ilikuwa ni kaa ya nani? Gari nani?
Ilikuwa gari ya wewe mama Mwindi.
Mlikuwa hapo nikiwapelekea?
Hapana.
Alafu na mbona unaongea vitu ujui?
Lakini oni wewe iko pale
ne. Turaena au toka hapo pana usingetee.
Kwa nini iko?
Sasa huyu ukimwongelesha lugha yako anaelewa.
For your information, mimi sina gari.
Very good. Kwa nini unaleta chiherere hapa? Why?
Chiherere? Footage inaonyesha vizuri wewe tu vile aliingia ndani ya gari, akangangara, akatoa, akafunga, alafu anamwambia mimi ni cherere.
Mimi ulisikia mimi ndio nimeiba hiyo kiti na nimeiba hiyo steering.
Kulingana na ule mama ambaye mlikuwa mnavunja sheria na yeye unamwekea gari.
Kumbe wewe ulikuwa na sitaki story.
Nini?
Jibu swali yangu.
If you're the kind who takes the time to help a stranger in the rain, there's a place for people like you.
I'm your king to set you free. You can come to me anytime for coffee. I won the prize from the very first time I looked in your eyes.
Mtazamaji, tumekuandalia taarifa zinazogonga vichwa vya vyombo vya habari kutoka hapa jijini Nairobi na pia mashinani.
Wanahabari zaidi ya ubora wao wako ange kukuletea habari pindi zinapochipuka kutoka pembe zote za Kenya.
Kwenye kipindi cha Tamrini tunakuletea mazungumzo ya moja kwa moja kufafanua na kuangazia masuala yanayokuhusu wewe mtazamaji.
Kumbuka, taarifa yenye thamani daima hupokewa kwa amani.
Hivyo basi usikose kuungana nasi kila siku ya wiki.
Tukupakulie na tukutaarifu taarifa yenye mnato kwenye runinga unayoienzi. Kwenye kurunzi mashinani,
sisi DC.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now in our second segment, we'll be focusing on what the Treasury Cabinet Secretary, that is John Buddy, clearly stated a few days ago in terms of the government trying to reintroduce the eco-levy in its new revenue sharing proposal as it seeks to collect 150 billion shillings to plug into the deficit caused by the withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024. You do remember the President clearly stating now with the withdrawal of the Finance Bill, 177 billion shillings shilling spending cut was removed, and 169 billion will have to be borrowed by the government to fill in the shortfalls since the withdrawal of the finance bill. Now, before I introduce my guest to you this morning, we're talking about the eco-levy, which was among the key subjects of the street protest. Also saw the rejection of multinational companies such as the American giant beverage manufacturer and distributor, that is Coca-Cola, which was opposed to the 10% excise duty in the proposal. But the new Treasury Cabinet Secretary, that is John Buddy, clearly state that this time the eco-levy aims to curb pollution and waste management at the office and household level. Now, how will this particular proposal augur well with not just the industry players but Kenyans alike? As the deadline, the CS clearly stated that the ministry is now rushing against time to have this tax measures in place by at least September 30th, so as to ensure the operations of the government are running smoothly. Now, joining us for this conversation is none other than Dennis Wakaba, a Secretary, Electric Mobility Association of Kenya. Dennis, welcome to our studios.
Thank you very much.
First of all, let me get your reactions on the possible return of not just the eco-levy, but the 49 provisions that were in the withdrawn finance bill by the new CS, that is John Buddy.
Well, it says a lot as a country because of the position that we are in right now. We understand most of these provisions will have impact on the cost of living, isn't it? So ideally, most of these goods will go up in prices, making them hard to reach for many Kenyans. And specifically areas to do with, food, consumable, everyday items, things like bread, and we know what happened after these proposals were forwarded to the president for assent. People were very uncomfortable with them, and I don't know what will happen now since they're back.
And of course, given that you've seen the government clearly stating there is a shortfall, does it not make sense that the government has to reintroduce some of these measures to meet their targets? Because the government requires revenue to run its day-to-day operations.
Ideally, for government, basically, we have what we call plans, isn't it? And plans should follow budgets. Yeah, plans should inform budgets. Again, it's all about strategically planning of what urgent needs are, and whatever is not urgent, how can we push a little bit further, or rather spreading the tax appetite that we have right now, because we know the status of the country and the status of people. So if you could say there are some things that can be put in, and there are some things can be pushed forward. But wholesomely, I think the CS should highly consider current status of the economy and how people are actually perceiving the government at the moment, because there are also trust issues. And one thing, as industry and people who do produce or sell such commodities, year on year, we get shocks. Things are being introduced randomly, abruptly. And for business like ours, we try to do long-term planning, 3 years, 5 years. But every year we have incremental. Then that tells us that Kenya is not ready to uptake, production or even supporting the business environment, of which it's the core in making sure that we have a prosperous country. If we don't do manufacturing, if we don't do production in-house for export, then what are we doing to our country?
Maybe to do a refresher course for our viewers who are watching us right now, you're among the organizations that, of course, took your memorandum to the Finance Committee led by Molo Member of Parliament Kimani Kuria during the public participation exercise. So what was so contentious about this eco-levy that the industry players were up in arms about it?
Let me take you back to 2023 when we were actually working on the Finance Act 2023. Basically what we were aiming to achieve is to lower the cost of goods, especially electric mobility products, so the electric bicycles, electric motorcycles, electric buses, passenger vehicle trucks. All these, we have a huge ecosystem including charging infrastructure. So we went there to look into zero rating of VAT, again zero rating of probably excess duty, for ecologically friendly vehicles, because at the end of the day, a city like Nairobi, that air quality is an issue, e-mobility is one of the solutions. So we were granted 0 rating on VAT, and again excess duty on motorcycles, electric motorcycles was removed. Okay, this translated that the end user of that vehicle will get it 16% cheaper plus 12,000 or 11,600 shillings cheaper. Yeah, so that's cumulative effect. Imagine between 2023 to June 2024, more than 1,500 motorcycles were sold or got into the market. So that benefit was passed on, and more were even being produced at that time up to this day. So those benefits went both to the consumer and also incentivized manufacturers to set up properly to be able to deploy as many products. Come to 2024, the finance bill, it was a shocker for the e-mobility industry, because we saw they wanted to remove the 0 rating to exempt. What this meant is that now it will attract VAT on the producer side, of which this cost has again to be pushed onto the consumer side, isn't it? So ideally, making the product certainly more expensive. And this was cutting across the 3 incentives that we got for e-mobility last year, on bicycles, on buses and motorcycles. And this year we aimed at expanding the scope of offerings for all the e-mobility products, including batteries, charging infrastructure, trucks, vans, passenger cars, motorcycles, let's say wholesomely all the categories. So we also did a memorandum saying that how do we spur e-mobility growth because of its many benefits. One of the benefits is we generate renewable energy. 92% is renewable. Even at night it can go way above that. And you charge it. This means when you charge from your local grid, you're offsetting fossil fuels that we need to import as a country, then safeguarding the foreign exchange reserves that we have, and putting that money into better use, maybe bringing in manufacturing equipment, etc.
Okay, but Dennis, one wonders, you know that taxes comes with a burden. It is a shared burden in the country, so that we can move on together. Don't you think, even the conversations that were rife during that particular time, is that if these cars that are emitting emissions that they're emitting, and we have these EV vehicles in the country, don't you think it will be a cost that should be the burden of both sectors, so that at least the government can eke something out of these cars that are emitting fossil fuels and these cars that are driven electronically?
Well, you can look it at in that angle, but I would say the benefits themselves, as I was highlighting, first of all, you are saving foreign exchange imports. For a car that travels 10,000 kilometers, probably it will need around about 5,000 liters, isn't it? Or even 500 liters, depending on whether it's a truck or a passenger car. That amount of liters multiplied by the number of vehicles that are using that, it's a huge saving if we take this money and use it in our grid, give it to Kenya Power, cascades down all the way to the generator. Secondly, is also because e-mobility industry is organized in a way focused on local production. Local production means a lot of employment opportunities being created. These people who have been employed in this organization and companies will be paying payee, will be having spending power, jobs. We've been talking about job creation all through. Besides the health benefits of having electric vehicles within our cities, towns, rural areas, air quality has shown to be causing at least 4 million deaths globally. A portion of that can be seen here in Kenya. Lung, asthma, some heart issues. I know the acronym COPD. then helping county governments or Ministry of Health offset budgets that could be used in curing this or mitigating these diseases. So there are things that you can balance with the benefits that you accrue from that particular industry, instead of also looking at how much you can make, but how much can you also save on this other side. Yeah, it's a balance of benefits, I would say.
The other question, the other million-dollar question, do we have the structures to support such kind of vehicles? Because one would assume they will work only in the urban centers. Then what happened to the rural areas?
I can guarantee you electric vehicles, just like your phone, most of them you can charge them from anywhere. From a normal to 40-volt 13-amp socket is much adequate to charge from. Again, today, the battery technologies have evolved. Are they in a better place to give you more range? More range, I mean distances of 200, 300, up to 800 kilometers on a single charge. If you take, for example, people who commute to work, probably they do 40 kilometers a day. Most of them are between 40 to 100 kilometers a day. Already, most vehicles will be able to meet that. If it's for the bus industry, you know, they do maybe 200, 300 kilometers a day. Most of these will be able to meet. On the energy and charging side, definitely there's a plan and program to work on charging infrastructure access, but all the companies currently under the E-Mobility Association of Kenya do have charging infrastructure to serve their clientele. Whether it's a charging hub or a charging depot, these are there to serve those clients, but also in collaboration with the most important person in the conversation is Kenya Power. Because we rely on the grid to interconnect, whether the medium voltage line or the low voltage lines, to put up convenient charging stations. Besides that, the mainstream oil companies are rebranding. You would see called what energies, you know, what energies, meaning they understand where the shift is. We are moving towards greener, and they have started deploying charging infrastructure. And even we can go further even to do solar panels and use that solar panels to charge. Whether at home, I have a very good case study. Somebody in Kitengela, where the sun is shining, he's able to charge his electric car only using solar. Which also is an advantage, that if you live in far-flung areas where there's no grid, solar or solar solution with a battery storage can be something that you can put up. Previously, when we were in Opibus, we used to convert Land Cruisers and send them to the Mara, you know, the Pajeta, and these particular vehicles will either go to the shopping center to charge, but that was not very sustainable or effective. So we had to put solar panels, battery storage, and charging infrastructure, and up to today, they're currently running. So ideally, even the grid has to be prepared, and these are conversations that we are continuously engaging, because we know where there are weak lines, how to strengthen them, etc.
Going back to the initial point, given that tax is a shared burden, as an industry, what would be a recommendation, or what alternatives are you offering to the Kenyan government so that they can be able to at least get revenue from this particular sector, because we agree that this is a shared responsibility?
As soon as yesterday, the president announced that he wants all public servants to at least access an electric car. Yeah, right? So that particular car could be, based on the range that he mentioned, could be between
300 kilometers.
Yeah, 300 kilometers. That means a battery pack size of about 35 kilowatt hour, all the way to around maybe 60 kilowatt hour, depending on the size of the car. For such batteries, a 35 kilowatt hour, expect it to be weighing probably around 350 to 400 kgs, and a 60 probably around 500 to 600 kgs. Yeah, and the eco-levy specified that both lithium-ion, lead-acid, any type of battery will be billed at 750 per kg. So 750 times 400, how much is that? Yeah, that's basically 150,000 Kenyan shillings, or up to 300,000 Kenya shillings given to the government, of which the government also wants to use that particular vehicle for particular purpose, climate change issues, and also saving cost, because ideally they'll save a lot of cost, up to 80% of the cost in fuel. So you see, based on that saving, why should you also charge 750 kgs per? That basically means we'll be making EVs to be out of reach of many. Because right now, electric vehicles are still very expensive.
Yes.
E-mobility companies are trying so many business models. You know, lease to own, pure lease, pay as you drive, many models just to make sure that either the boda rider, the bus owner, or the passenger, EV car owner will be able to access it. So if we want to delay our growth, this is one of the ways to do it.
And you know, the country relies on renewable energy, especially our very own. That's why you even saw in the ACS 2023, the focus was on ensuring that we protect our towers, our water towers and catchment areas. So are you in agreement that, given that the new CS, that is John Buddy, clearly stated that the tax now will aim in ensuring that we don't have plastic pollutions in our oceans, in our environs, so as to protect these particular water towers as we enter to the industries of carbon trading?
Yeah, that's a very good point, because what we should be looking at, it's segmentation of sectors. Okay, for e-mobility sector, for example, it's we are still very young. You won't find any disposed battery at the moment. Yeah, and again, there are things to do with EPRO, you know, extended user and producer responsibility, where most of these companies have already partnered with existing organizations on post end-of-life management, which can be either stationary storage or recycling or repurposing. You know, you remove a battery from a motorcycle, then put it in a lamp that can be used in the lakes for fishing at night. You know, there are so many other things. But if you look at now clothing, paper, that's another conversation, because again, it also says there's sort of duplicity in things, because we had the extended producer responsibility regulations the other day, and introducing an eco-levy, then it seems that they're competing. So basically, I would say the CS should look into what KEPRO aims to achieve besides the eco-levy. Again, it's very important to protect and have waste management.
Yes.
And I don't know why that revenue is being collected up there and not at the county level if it's supposed to be collected, because it's mostly on waste management and producer responsibility. So I produce maybe packets of milk. I should know how to recover that packet of milk, but it also goes to the waste or solid waste management at the home level. Do we do segregation at the moment? Do you do segregation? It's very hard for us because of user education, or even CBC probably it will help, saying plastic here, organic waste here, other general waste here. But besides that, there are so many other waste management methods, including the one that Governor Sakaja wants to put up in Dandora, energy recovery center, and that to generate electricity, which can then power the solars, the lights, and also charge the cars. So I will immediately say that looking at what KEPRO is doing and matching it to the objectives of the eco-levy, which I think should be very looked into, not to make our cost of goods quite expensive, as I highlighted.
And the other outstanding issue is that, do we have the capability of building these cars in the country? Secondly, if not, what does it mean? Is it the lack of capacity, the environment itself, or what are we looking at here? Do we have the capacity to assemble these cars if they're imported into the country?
I will tell you that today we have cars being built here, mostly motorcycles and buses, and bicycles. Those are highly assembled and even to a point of manufacturing. For example, in-house manufacturing can be of some various components. Like doing a whole bus body, that's almost manufacturing, because we have organizations which have been doing this for years. There is no need of reinventing the wheel. So how do you partner with the existing body? So there is capacity, there is manpower, but again, for us to accelerate the adoption and also to accelerate the production of these vehicles, we definitely need to do a lot of capacity building. So far, we've been looking into TVET institutions to do upskilling, even in-house academies for some of the organizations, like I know Rome and many others have in-house academy. So another one for Spiro. There are definitely people who are working to make sure that production is working. So the other day, Basigo is producing buses in Dika. And most of these people have set up, including probably Mobius is going to be converted into an electric vehicle factory. So the capacity is there, but there's a lot also need to be done in terms of upskilling and also end user training, then what you call after sales service. Where do you maintain your car, etc. Because you need to know two things. After I buy, I need to insure, I need to fuel, and I also need to maintain.
And given that you have the stakeholders in this particular field, so what would your advice be to the CS, that is John Buddy, as they draft new proposals that they will take to Parliament? What are these other areas they can try and look for those revenues?
Again, I will keep on saying you might not get tangible benefits such as cash back, but you also see if one, you can save on the other side because of putting down this particular product called an electric vehicle. First of all, it's the health, the energy, the forex savings that you can do. On the other things that they can get benefits tangibly is to incentivize the sector to grow. Because once you incentivize it, it will employ a lot of people, you'll get a lot of pay, you'll get people now being able to go spend, spend in a supermarket, spend in a market, and that's how you spur economic growth. I saw an article by Prof. Ndongo the other day. You cannot, always keep taxing people, expecting to increase your tax collected. But how do you spread it in a way that every sector gives you something and you're able to fill your pot? So ideally, I would say incentivize this, because we have the potential even exporting vehicles. Maybe someday, just like South Africa exports to Europe and other countries, we can also do the same. Export to our neighboring countries, maybe export to overseas, and this will help create job opportunities, investment opportunities. E-mobility alone, in the past year, has brought in 50 million USD. 50 million USD. And if given a better opportunity, it can multiply that figure by 10. So it beats the purpose of getting small and losing much. I would say incentivize so that you're able to also focus on the long term.
Maybe to the Kenyan who's watching us right now, if you're making $50 million US, bringing it into the country, so it means there's money in the sector. So you can give and take at the end of the day.
Well, most of these monies are foreign direct investments to these companies. We go out there, pitch, say that we need to electrify Kenya, making sure that we also partake in the carbon neutrality goal or net zero goal. We committed here last year during the ACS. How do we make sure mobility that accounts for 44% of the emissions within Nairobi alone is converted, or we are able to reduce, because also government has targets, emission targets. We need to get money, what you call cheaper credit or cheaper monies from equity or debt. So ideally, if you look at local financial institution, it's very hard to get very affordable money. You're looking at interest rates below 7%. I'm not sure I know of any. So looking at that money particularly goes into make sure that you buy the equipment, you onboard more talent, and you grow your own organization to streamline production activities. So it's very little money because it's also distributed to a membership of more than 34 companies. And ideally, we might require more money. In fact, right now, the delay is getting more money into the industry to be able to produce these particular vehicles. So 50 million is just 5 or 6 billion shillings.
Which is a lot of money.
If you come to these sectors, because an electric bus, for example, it will cost you between if you build it completely, probably around 15, 20 million. But using models, we're able to give it accessibly and affordably to the bus operators. Same to a motorcycle. The true cost is a bit higher, but we use models to lower to make sure that they are at par with the petrol versions. So the rest remaining, you either pay as a service until you recover. And it's easy to recover because of the energy cost that you've set. 70% of saving. If you're spending 100 shillings on a petrol, be sure on an electric one you'll spend maybe 20 or 30 shillings. So the rest of the balance you can invest in repayment and amortization of that particular asset. So we can say that there are things that can be gotten with the amount of money that we have, which is tied to a very small volume. Maybe 1,000 buses, 10,000 motorcycles, etc. But that's not enough. We have 2 million motorcycles in the country. How much money do we need to electrify all this? And it's going to be phased. So if 10,000, you're using maybe around 20 million USD, about 1 million motorcycles. You see, the sum is quite huge. Same case to electric buses and electric vehicles.
Now, aside from incentivizing the sector so that it can grow at the end of the day, what are these other solutions you're possibly looking at to ensure that this is an area that employs people? At the end of the day, we do have, when it comes to unemployed Kenyans, the numbers are quite high. So what are you doing in the sector to at least solve this particular issue that is facing the country?
That's a very important question. And as I mentioned, EMAC as an industry body is focused on making sure that we make sure that Kenya is a hub of e-mobility product production, right? And through this, first of all, it's investment in not only sales, because it's easy. For me, I can come from anywhere, put up a showroom and import and start selling those electric vehicles or electric motorcycles. I will only create maybe 2 or maximum 5 jobs. But for an organization that is serious in doing manufacturing or assembling here, I bet you they would not require anything less than 100 people at a medium scale operation. For example, I know a company like Rome has 215 employees. We also have other companies, they have maybe 50, 70, 100 people. That's the only way we can create jobs, by making sure that we do manufacturing and assembly. And once we do manufacturing and assembly, the law requires e-mobility companies to localize. By localize, I mean either design and develop some parts, whether the space tank or the footrest locally, or the rear carrier, the rear carrier locally. That means you're also creating bubbles of value chains. So somebody is producing maybe a chain, another one a sprocket, somebody else doing leaf spring. See, you're also creating jobs here, jobs there, jobs there, and before they come to the OEM aggregator here, who then also needs people to merge all these things into a product. And after that, you need a showroom operator to sell that product. Then after selling, you need somebody to maintain. And all these are capacity building areas that we are working on.
And of course, some of the policy propositions that you have made, not just before the Finance Committee, what have you been able to forward to some of these representatives who represent you in the Gas House at the end of the day to support this particular sector?
One think I say it's continuous awareness, because even when we were doing the consultations back in 2023, the gap was what is e-mobility, what is actual benefit of getting these things incentivized. We are continuously bridging the gap by making sure they understand the benefits. And since then, even we got the president to ride in an electric car back in September. And besides that, doing an e-mobility parade. And we continuously aiming to work on public events to make sure people understand. The other day, a Nissan Leaf was racing a Subaru, and the Nissan Leaf won. People are saying that electric vehicles have weak power, they cannot climb hills. So we continuously make sure that we prove that an electric car is a better option overall. Once it's known that it's a better option, it's easy now for the politician or our leaders or parliament committee on finance and planning to see there's a need, there's an interest by Kenyans to shift to a renewable, a zero emission type of vehicle. So it starts there. Then from there we discuss on how to make sure that the math is mathing on their side, that whatever they are giving, we are giving in return in terms of more jobs, a greener economy, and also basically positioning Kenya as a hub of mobility.
Thank you so much. If you're just joining us, we're talking to Dennis Wakabe, Secretary at the Electric Mobility Association of Kenya, on the possible return of the eco-levy and what it will mean for the industry players who are in this particular sector. And but before we continue our conversation, we need to take a short breather. But in that particular breather, I want to take you down memory lane, looking at our previous cabinet back in the day. Today we are focusing on Dr. Protus Kebati. Let's get to look at his long, illustrious career in Kenya's cabinet.
Dr. Protus Kebati Momanyi served 2 terms in the Kenya National Assembly from 1988 to 1997. During this time, he was an assistant minister in 2 ministries and the Minister for Tourism and Wildlife. Momanyi was born in 1935 in Igango, Bonchari constituency. He studied at St. Mary's Yala in the mid-1950s for his O-levels. Momanyi would later join the Royal Technical College in 1957 to study pure mathematics, physics, and applied mathematics. The government of Kenya had set up the first commercial and technical college, Royal Technical College, that would later become the University of Nairobi. He was among the few natives in the college that had many Indian students, since it had been merged with the Gandhi Memorial Academy Society. In October 1960, Momanyi headed to Italy, where he would spend the next 8 years pursuing higher education at the State University of Rome because of its Napoleonic education. He earned his first degree and a doctorate in civil engineering. He returned to Kenya in 1968. His first job was teaching at the University of Nairobi. However, he taught for only 1 year as he felt he could better utilize his skills as a builder. He went into construction industry and was among the first Kenyan consultants to be entrusted with building highways in the country, notably the Athi River Namanga Highway, a road that would become one of the busiest in Kenya. He would also help set up the Kisii Chemosit Road. Besides roads, he also helped build several hotels and lodges across the country. This was between 1972 and 1979, when he was the Chief Technical Officer of the Kenya Tourism Development Corporation. The hotels and lodges were mostly owned jointly by KTDC and the local municipalities or local foreign investors. Notably, he built the Sunset Hotel in Kisumu Town, Sirikwa Hotel in Eldoret Town, the Marsabit Lodge and Mount Elgon Lodge. He also built the Kitale sewage line that is still being used to date. In the 1980s, Momanyi's clansmen urged him to represent them in parliament. Reluctantly, he joined politics. The opportunity came when Wanjare constituency was split into South Mugirango and Bonchari constituencies. During the 1988 Mlolongo Q voting general election, he ran against the incumbent Mark Bosire. Momanyi emerged the winner. Immediately, he was appointed Assistant Minister for Transport and Communication under Kenneth Matiba. He later worked under Joseph Kamotho when Matiba was detained ahead of the 1992 multi-party elections. In 1992, Momanyi, hitherto a staunch KANU supporter, was edged out of the party. He defected to opposition, joining Mwai Kibaki's Democratic Party, a party that enjoyed considerable support in Kisii. Against all odds, he won by a landslide and was the first member of parliament to be declared a winner in the first multi-party election since the repeal of Section 2A of the 1982 Constitution, which allowed for a return to multi-partyism. After the elections, Momanyi was wooed back to KANU. His return to KANU occasioned a by-election against Richard Mbeche. Mbeche lost to Momanyi. After Momanyi's win in the by-election, Moi restored him as an assistant minister, this time in the Ministry of Home Affairs. When Zachariah Onyonka, then the Minister for Science and Technology, died in 1996, Moi appointed Momanyi Minister for Tourism and Wildlife. In Bonchari, he helped to build schools and a market and completed a sewer line that had been initiated by his predecessor Bosire. When he joined parliament, the constituency had only 3 secondary schools: Suneka, Itiero, and Igonga. After he took charge, he subdivided the constituency into 14 sublocations and helped to ensure that each had a secondary school, except for the 3 sublocations that already had one. Before 1988, the closest market for people from Bonchari was Nyamarambe in South Mugirango. He brought the market closer to Suneka in Bonchari. He also built 4 clinics that were later upgraded to health centers. As Assistant Minister for Home Affairs, he helped subdue the Likoni clashes. As the Minister for Tourism, he helped to reinforce the anti-poaching law with Moi. In 1997, he lost his seat to Zebedio Opore and retired from politics, retreating to his farm in Matutu Settlement Scheme. Jackie Wambiru, The Cabinet.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. We are talking about the possible return of the eco-levy and other provisions that were in the withdrawn Finance Bill 2024. Now to give his final remarks, that is Dennis Wakaba, the Secretary of the Electric Mobility Association of Kenya. In just a minute, Dennis, what will be your final remarks in regards to the topic that we are tackling today?
I'll say that industry is quite prepared in making sure that we avail the proper products, proper services, proper charging infrastructure to make sure that we're able to electrify Kenya. And immediate and urgent request to the government is, we need a consistent policy and a conducive policy to help us be able to plan the production of these particular vehicles, whether motorcycles, buses, passenger cars, and the like. It's very important because Kenya has set targets in terms of emission, and we're also looking at utilization of our renewable energy. So it's imperative that when any other finance act is being prepared, we are at the table, they listen, they understand the benefits of e-mobility, and they prepare a way for industry to be formed, because we have huge potential in terms of job creation and even exporting these particular cars all over. I would like to say, as e-mobility association members, we are keen to support the government in making sure that they make the right decision, and we also hope that they'll be able to respond in the same manner.
And of course, given that at least you have been added a minute, so what are the other outstanding matters that are being faced by the sector so that you want even the government to aid you in addressing in just a few seconds?
So we've been having what we call the e-mobility policy. It's in draft stage. Finalization of that, because it articulates what needs to be done from public awareness, from production of this particular cars, incentivization, unique number plates, job creation ability, setting up of charging infrastructure accessible everywhere, proper standardization and standards for e-mobility. So once this policy has to be approved, and so that we go into a legislation and also proper regulations to govern the sector that will also touch on incentives, import duty, excise duty, all these kind of levies that will be able to help us grow without feeling squeezed.
Okay, thank you so much. That is Dennis Wakaba, the Secretary of Electric Mobility Association of Kenya. Thank you for making time for us this morning. And that is on the possible return of the eco-levy and other provisions that were in the withdrawn finance bill. You do know that the ministry is now rushing against time to have these tax measures in place by September 30th. We need to take a shorter breather, and we'll be back with our last topic, which is in regards to mending bridges. We are talking about two warring communities in Turkana and in Pokot. Let's take that breather, and we'll be back with that particular conversation.
John Cheruyot's education journey ended after completing his A-level examination at Kakamega High School in 1971, where he was a loyal member of the Christian Union. His journey in politics would begin when the late Ezekiel Barangetuni, the then Nandi kingpin, would recommend him to replace the then National Assembly Speaker Samuel Arap Nyani, who appeared to have had a fallout with the government. Cheruyot had an added advantage as he was the son of Ezekiel Birek, the head of the African Inland Church, where the late President Moi was an ardent worshipper. This would expose him to the field of politics from business, and in 1988 he was elected Aldai Member of Parliament through the infamous Mlolongo political system. Unknown to many, Cheruyot became the minister after his Tinderet counterpart was sacked hardly 9 months after assuming office as Minister for Commerce. Cheruyot would go ahead to serve as minister for 4 years from 1988 to 1992. At that time, the Commissioner for Cooperatives, Raymond Bomet, had more political clout than the minister. In many instances, Bomet executed his mandate without consulting him, with serious implications in some instances. Interest. He successfully appealed and the jail term was suspended. Today, Cheruyot's presence is felt more in nostalgic reminiscence than in the political arena. He would retreat to his family farm after departing from the murky political landscape to a quiet life after a journey that was marked by both triumph and tribulations. Jackie Wambiru, The Cabinet.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Now, in our final segment, we are focusing on mending bridges, especially when it comes to the peace accord that was struck between the Turkana and Pokot leaders and communities as a whole, that was signed and back in 2021 and aimed at helping to unite the two warring communities. Now, the forum was organized by none other than the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. We do have somebody who is on the ground to just tell us how is the situation like between the border of Turkana and West Pokot, and he is none other than Jackson Nakusa. He is the chairman of the Turkana Professional Association. Mr. Jackson, karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Yes. Now, let's pick it up from there. Since the signing of that peace accord in 2021, what is the situation like on the ground?
Thank you so much. First of all, I have to introduce myself properly. Yes. My name is Jackson Nakusa.
I'm the chairman of Turkana Professional Association. This is where all our professionals are members in the county, in the country, and abroad. We are a pool of professionals who are doing so much for the community and the country as well. Yes, my intention of being here today was really to put some things straight and make sure that the notion and the attitude about the Turkana people is put in place.
Yes.
First, conflict is driven by resources. People are fighting over resources. And Turkana is endowed. Turkana County is endowed by resources. The first resource is land. We have enough land that everyone is salivating for. We also have a lot of livestock that everyone wants to grab. We have minerals. And then we also have the human resource. We have a gene that is so special, and people would want to use it to crossbreed and make their own genes. So this matter on conflict has stayed for far too long, and it's causing problems. It's taking lives, it's stagnating development, it's turning people's livelihoods around. People are poor because of this conflict. I want to break this thing into two. That there's a conflict and there's also criminal offenses that are committed during these moments. You realize when I'm a Turkana myself and I own animals, you realize today I have 5,000 goats and tomorrow I have none in the morning. And the crime is committed in a country where the law is supreme, where government has systems. They can see who has taken what from who and taken it where. And so we have been so lax. We have not picked up this matter as a matter of importance as a country. All the bodies, like you've mentioned, there are bodies that have been made to manage issues on land, to manage issues on boundaries, to manage cohesion, to manage even the way people live. Because we are Kenyans. Pokots are Kenyans. Every other Samburus are Kenyans. And they can live everywhere. In fact, we have many Turkanas who live in West Pokot. And they're living their life. Maybe because they don't have so much resource that can be picked up from them, but they're living there. We recognize that, and we appreciate that some of our members, community members, are everywhere in the country. They're in West Pokot, they're in Trans Nzoia, they're in Wasingishu. In fact, there are many in Laikipia, they're in Nakuru, they're in Marsabit. We are in very many, about 7 or 8 counties in the country. But you realize the Pokot people are not bad people. And so when you term the conflict between the Turkanas and Pokot, we have to separate. There are people in the Pokot society who have decided that we will always grab whatever is available for them. And this is an opportunity that we can actually negotiate. Because if our people are living in Kapenguria, why can they not live here? In peace. You see, that's the point. So those are the people who are trying to run issues along the border of Turkana and West Pokot, maybe Turkana and Baringo. These are the people that the government can focus on and say, what is the problem? You want livestock? There are many ways of getting livestock, including marriages. If you want livestock from a neighbor and you have a beautiful daughter, you give the daughter up and you have the animals. But this idea of coming forcefully, killing people, and taking the animals away is criminal. I am a friend to many Pokot professionals, and we speak. I go to Kapenguria every day and nobody has hurt me. They know I'm a Turkana. Because their intention is to change the attitude towards this old, archaic practice. It's a old, archaic practice that is being tolerated. We don't want that happening.
Given that you've just said that you've even talked to the professional bodies that are on the other side. So what possible solutions are you offering, not just to the government, but to your community as well, so that this can stop?
Yes, we are speaking to professionals that let us get to our people and tell them, let us get to go to school. Probably illiteracy and lack of proper livelihoods is what's driving these people to go and pick animals from the neighbors. So we professionals must step out and go and tell our traditional people, this habit is criminal and this habit is supposed to be, in fact, can be actioned by the law. So leave it. Focus on things. Because if you look at the countries that have conflict, they're the ones that are backward now. Every other county has taken off, but these counties are left here. And this is why sometimes I would want to call the government and say, just come and round up the people. Those locations, you can pinpoint them, where the criminals are living. And I want to appreciate the CS, Kindiki. I want to appreciate the president for stamping his authority and saying, I want to terminate this criminal act. Turkanas and Pokots must focus on development, not on hunting each other in the streets. So for this reason, I've come to say, if we are able to identify these people who are armed, in fact, one other thing is wrong hands in the wrong hands. those guns should be picked. We don't need them. The government of Kenya has enough machinery to handle everybody's security. They have enough machinery to handle the border issues. And so these are the guns that are roaming in the street here are supposed to be picked, and the people who are owning it and they're refusing to be orderly should be put in their place. This is what I'm trying to say. And these guns are even extended to the roads. Someday they stop vehicles, and they want to hurt people who are just doing their business, who have no intention of cattle rustling or something like that. So I'm insisting that we need to activate all the institutions that the government of Kenya has created to make sure that people live in peace. I am a peace lover myself. I'm a person who wants to use sports for peace. I'm a sports person. Sports, in fact, was created because of chaos long time back, the marathon. And so even now, the government can deliberately create sports for peace. You know, sports is a way they put you together. It creates tolerance. People can speak about the same thing for a little longer. So we want to change our approach towards this place.
And some of the, aside from what you've just proposed there, we're talking about you have, especially for the Turkana people, we have the Tobonglore, we have such cultural events.
Yes.
So have you even considered to talk to your neighbors, to even invite them to
They
such?
come.
Yes.
I tell you, I already told you I was in Kapenguria, and they come to Lodwar, my friends, some are politicians. People come, they're like you and me. You see, they come for functions. We had a very serious conference sponsored by UN. It was called the Investment Conference.
Yes.
And they brought in there, they brought the professionals, and we spoke. And we said, and we actually spoke with the professor. Said, first thing, remove the gun. Who needs that gun? What for? Okay? Second, let the government deliver development projects to these areas. Some areas, by the way, if you go to West Pokot or some areas in Turkana, people are still there where the country was many years back. We should do a deliberate effort to put money on specifics. You see, water is a resource that we fight over. Because when you have a lot of livestock, people would want to fight over boreholes, people would want to fight over wells, dams, and Uganda has done that very well. Uganda has put mega dams that can sustain the pastoralists during all seasons. So even us, if there's issues with scrambling over water, the government of Kenya can put money in the water for the assals. You realize? You put a dam in Turkana, sometimes they leave grass and look for water to a dangerous zone. But for me, I don't want a situation where we have dangerous zones in the country. We want to make this country as calm as possible. So if you have criminals hiding in some place, let them be flushed out, let them come out and speak. If they want to be supported, the government has resources, counties can support them. We have many reformed warriors, and they're doing their lives.
And also, some of this critical resource you've just talked about is water. We know there are various proposals to ensure that dams are being built, especially in this particular area, so that it can bring the two communities together. Now, given that now you have a cabinet secretary from the Turkana County itself, so is this something that as a professional body you'll be forwarding to?
You see, while I'm speaking to everyone. I'm speaking to the President of the Republic of Kenya, I'm speaking to the CSS, because issues that we fight for include trade.
Yes.
You see, livestock management, water for animals and people, agriculture. Some occupancy is being moved to areas that are food secure, and so you want to move there and start agriculture. So I'm speaking to everyone. That, let us go and take our place. Let the agriculture team come and support the Pokots and support the Turkanas with the agriculture, so that we don't see one piece of land and we fight over it. Let the water be sufficient for animals and the people. Let education be sufficient for everyone. You know, somebody who's educated will think twice before he harms you. Okay? Let us invest on health. Now, to come back to the issue of the CS, first of all, I want to thank the President of the Republic of Kenya, and that is one of the reasons why he was here, to specifically make our professional statement that from us, the professors of Turkana and our leadership, we want to thank His Excellency the President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, for taking this bold step to give the Turkana community a cabinet secretary's position, especially for the ladies. It has never been, and this is just writing history. We are thanking you so much. We also want to extend our appreciation to the Right Honorable Prime Minister, retired. He was the first guy who nominated the name of our candidate to the government. The broad-based government is a government that everyone requires. You realize we are in one country. Someday we compete over elections, and some people lose. Those people who lose are not supposed to be thrown out. There's a way this country should tolerate. And I want to emphasize this to Kenyans. The President has taken the right step. This government is the only government that we have. And all of us can be in, and there's enough for us, and we can eat it sufficiently. Even for our young people, they're liberate efforts. I already spoke about sports a little earlier. Sports is the weapon for the young people. It pays appropriately, and it keeps them going. It keeps them away from illicit activities. If the government of Kenya can place money to the Ministry of Sports, I'm happy about this Cabinet Secretary Murkomen. Even when he was in Rhodes, he was doing sports. I remember I participated in a OKM tournament that was sorting about peace issues. Put money to sports. Put money to the youth programs. These youth people will not come and look for you wherever you are. They will be busy doing something. Deliberate efforts. And the CS had mentioned it, that just like we have given women affirmative action, is it possible to give the youth of this country affirmative action? They're the biggest, 70% of the population, and you realize most of them are jobless now. And most of them are educated. This is a team we must confront and give them what they want in this country. They have the energy and they have the ability to take this country forward. So, Mr. President, Dr. President, we appreciate you as a community, and we thank you for thinking about the pastoralists and the pastoralist women.
And you've just talked about the education sector. What can be done enough to ensure that the education sector in such ASAL areas are improved, given that we have seen in the past that children are even in classrooms under a tree? So how can the administration, the current administration, approach this best? And are they relying on you, the professional bodies who are on the ground, to aid in this particular success?
I tell you, this country got independence many years back. And all the reports are in the correct dockets about the standards of infrastructure in the country on education, about the infrastructure on health, and it's time to sort that out. We have money. You know, education is infrastructure. It's not just about the people running through a system. It's infrastructure. If you put infrastructure of education to the pastoral areas, particularly Turkana, we will not be having these embarrassing photos of people learning under a tree. And a classroom is basically 2 million. And if with a lot of 2 millions, we will have all the classrooms fixed. Secondly, a system that is tolerant to people, you know, and already this country has a system that works. This is exactly what we need to do. We pinpoint the areas that have been left back because our literacy levels are low. We just go and say, we are going to give affirmative action to bring these people closer to where the rest of the people are. Put money, put the teaching power, human resource, and enable the people. I even know that most of the areas are poor. And during my time, food was being placed in the school so that you go to school. But here I am today. If that means we can support those people by programs that provide food to those people. I know it may not be very sustainable, but it's something that we can use to induce children to come to school. And once they're in school now, we keep them in school. You see?
Okay, Mr. Jackson, we only have a minute and 30 seconds to conclude. Give us your final take on this particular issue.
Yes, my big reason is we need to stop these issues on boundaries. We should not be talking about boundaries. Even before devolution, every county is a standalone county. My county is 023. It has boundaries marked to the end. There are no dotted lines. Even in the international borders, we have. And the other day, the government of Kenya rolled a survey for the entire international boundaries. That should even happen immediately for the Pokots, and Turkanas, and Samburus, and people in Meru. I know those conflicts. Let's seal this thing out. Because now, every day we are in parliament asking government to give us an explanation on boundaries. Why? There's already a boundary that marks your ward, it marks your sub-county, it marks your village, it marks your county, and it marks your province and the region. So let's just stop this thing, because some people are using it now to cause trouble. Some people are using it to cause tension. First request is, let us finalize on this issue. We don't want to speak over it anymore. The second thing is, we just have to pick the guns that are floating around the region. They are necessary, and we don't need them. Nobody needs those guns. Take them where they're supposed to be. Let those people decide what they want, and the governments of this country, including county governments, can give them what to do. Thirdly, we want to do deliberate development activities. Take water to pastoralists. Take medicine. Do grazing. I know there are places in Isiolo where people are planting grass, and people are grazing using those, like, you use graze for a few months, then you reserve this other place in that manner, so that you have order. You realize now Turkana has oil and gas. They may need land eventually when we start development projects. So the pastorals also need to be managed, to be in a place that is safe with every resource. And also, the government has to come out clear on resource management, particularly on minerals. There's a conflict in Baringo between Turkana East and Baringo that we need to speak over it. You know, nobody's an enemy of the other. All of us are people from the same country. All of us are people from God. And all of us have the wisdom to speak. If Turkanas want anything from West Pokot, they can go and speak and say, spare us this time, we are coming to grace here peacefully. The same thing that we do in Uganda and other places. Let's talk, let's tolerate one another, and let us create better ways of negotiating peace.
Yes.
And my point number one is Sports for Peace. Let's fund it. Let's have the young people interacting. And I want to thank, I repeat, to thank the President for giving us the opportunity. Pastoralists, you've been challenged, the women, deliver for the country, deliver for the region.
Okay.
I also want to go the CS for East African community and ourselves.
Yes.
Your time now is here. We want to thank you for being nominated. Please take it on, and God will guide you.
Thank you so much. That is Mr. Jackson Nakusa, the chairman of Turkana Professional Association. I do know even the Tobonglore is coming up,
Yes.
so wish you the best in that. You only have 30 seconds to talk about.
Maybe I can talk about Tobonglore.
Just 30
you are
seconds.
invited to Tobonglore. That is the biggest cultural event we normally have.
Yes.
The president of this country put a deliberate effort and said,
yes,
this is for the country and international. So all of you are invited.
Yes.
We invite our neighbors from
you,
Uganda, from Ethiopia, from Sudan, and all Kenyans are invited.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Hopefully to see you there if that particular
Yes, you'll find me
conference we will get an opportunity to go to, given that we covered it last year. Hopefully this will be the case this year. That marks the end of our conversation here on a News Check. That was the third segment. We were talking about mending bridges. The Chairman has been able to tell us what is happening on the ground and some of the achievements the professional bodies are making on the ground, especially working closely with the county and the national government. That concludes our conversation. It is 2 minutes to the top of the hour. I need to pave way for my colleague, that is Khalid Abdullahi, who is coming up next with Kurunzi Mashinani. The sign language interpreter at the bottom end of the screen is Brian Muraru. Good morning for now.